Leak Detective, welcome. We're going to do a presentation on the advantage of for realtors and real estate agents of the leak detective over a home inspector and the problems that are out there. So we're going to run through this real quick. We think there's a new and better way to deal with water leaks. The old way of dealing with water leaks basically is wrong. So what is the old way? So a home seller has a leak. This is occurring in about 55% of the homes out there. They have a leak, and either they're dealing with active leaks constantly or regularly. Anyway, they try to conceal this leak when they go to sell the home, paint over it, cover over it, underplay how bad it is. So then the buyer hires a home inspector hoping to catch the leak, but they fail to do so 71% of the time. There is a leak, and that's because it is not leaking during the time of the home inspection. So the buyers purchase a leaky home, the home leaks, and then there are costly repairs. This is a fact out of Chicago from Real Seal. 55% of homeowners have a leaky basement. So disclosure versus concealment. According to the state law, you must disclose if you've had water problems in your house. And Nebraska revised statute says that a disclosure statement shall be completed to the best of your belief and knowledge. So you have to be accurate. Unfortunately, most sellers try to conceal the leak. Obviously, you're trying to paint your house in the best possible light. I understand that. But what I'm going to try to do is caution you to be very, very accurate and honest. Concealing is actually a form of dishonesty and a misrepresentation of the facts. But why do they do this? I mean, what's going on out there that makes it so hard or difficult to disclose leaks accurately? The number one reason, traditional waterproofing is very, very expensive. The last thing you want to do when you're selling your home is give away 10, 15% of the equity to a home waterproofing company that essentially does crazy things like lift your homes up, puts new foundations in. I've seen this recently. They didn't even fix the leak. They just put in a bunch of new waterproofing around the foundation. Basically, a contractor can literally thrash the entire savings of a homeowner. I see this all the time. And there's a lot of them in Lincoln. And I think they're probably doing the best they know how to do. I just don't think it's the right route to go. And if it's left unrepaired, a leak can cause the following during a sale. So it really can negatively affect the sale of a home. This is for all you realtors out there. I see this time and time again. A leak during the actual sale. So you've kind of ignored the leak or you've concealed it. Now it shows up during the actual sale. There we go. All right. Here's the things that can happen. First, leaks hurt resale. Obviously, they're going to hurt how much you can get for your house. Drives down the price. Discourages a quick sale. So snail like slow, very slow. It bogs everything down. There's got to be a lot of people called, and I might come in. And anyway, it's just a slow process. Immediately, it will drive away about 39% of the buyers. That's probably the number one reason people don't even want to disclose the leak at all. It lowers your future resale. 31% of homeowners believe they would not be able to resell their property. So it gives you a negative self-esteem. It has a very high cost to clean. For example, 31% took time off to clean. It's just costly. You lose a lot of property. It has a high cost to repair. This is the old way. 37% spent more than $5,000. Can cause mold, which most people believe is harming their family. Mold is expensive to repair, averaging around $5,000. It causes constant worry. People are just worried sick that their homes are beyond repair. They can't be repaired. They're not going to be able to resell it. It can even cause homelessness. 13% have had to leave their homes during a leaky situation or during the repair. So it is not funny, which I like this picture. Alright, so if you're thinking of concealing the leak, please do not do it. If water has entered the building, just confess it. And here's how to do it. Oh, wait a minute. We'll get to that in a second. What happens when a homeowner conceals and then the house leaks? Well, typically, there's a lot of damage that's already either in the house or is going to occur and it's very hard to conceal most of the time. You can clean up, if it's just a one-time leak and a small one, you can clean it up, but most leaks are persistent over time, and you'll see wood rot, wood warping, all kinds of things that we can see. And then the next time the rain comes, it'll leak. This has actually occurred many times during the move-in for the new buyers. They're actually bringing in boxes and putting it on the floor, and the next thing you know, the floor is full of water. So they call the leak detective. We're trained to uncover the clues that show how the property, the history of the property has been affected by water. And these are some of the clues we find. For example, painting over mold, efflorescence, or just mold in general, water stains anywhere, ceilings, floors, walls. Oops. They might cover the damage. There's wood rot and warping, mold and smells, and just doing a lot of weird construction that clearly show that you were trying to cover the leak. So if you're aware of a leak, let the buyers know. And according to Aladdin's genie, tell the truth. So what you want to disclose are general dates and the amount of damage, number one. And try to be accurate. If it leaks every single time, just say that. And tell them where and how. Then the best thing to do is to show them how you tried to fix the issue, assuming you have. Bring copies of the work, or include copies of the work orders, and take pictures of what was done. We do reports. You can include that. Explains exactly what caused the leak and how to fix it. So what about the home inspection? Isn't that supposed to catch any leaks? Isn't it supposed to guarantee you as a buyer you're never going to have a leaky home? Nope. 71% of the time, when there is a leak, they don't catch it, and that basically for various reasons we're gonna talk about. Home inspectors usually can find active leaks, so if it's leaking while they're there, so if they're stepping in a puddle of water, they will tell you about it. If they aren't, they may not see anything. It's harder to find what I call a dormant leak. So if it's either not rained or not rained enough, you might see a lot of evidence of a leak, but there is what we call a dormant leak. This could be very old. If a home is 100 years old, this could have been 20 or 30 years ago. So why can't they find dormant leaks? Well, they have to cover a lot of ground in a couple hours. They're doing everything in the house. So they're checking all the pieces and parts mechanically, but they're not going to be out there training detecting water. And the reason is they're not trained to detect it. I mentioned earlier it's not leaking at the time. There's not enough time during the inspection, and this is important because it takes about 2 to 3 hours to do an inspection. Many times there's a lot of evidence, multiple layers of evidence that make it very difficult to determine if it's leaked recently or not. And then they can't test the entire system, the drainage system. So if a home inspector doesn't find the leak, is the seller off the hook? Nope. A seller's disclosure can be evidence of negligent representation. Basically, this just meant the seller lied, and then they are liable to probably repair the damage, pay for the damaged property, and fix why it's leaking. So it could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 depending on who's brought in to fix it. This happened to a seller recently where they failed. I gave them an inspection, but they failed to do the actual work, and so during the next storm, water came in, a lot of damage. The buyer was a lawyer, so he sued the seller, and the seller was willing to work with him, and I think they really thought they did a good job, but turns out the contractor really didn't do hardly anything correctly. So happens all the time. Anyway, when that happens, it can lead to big lawsuits and jail. Well, maybe not jail. Just made that up. There is an easier, cheaper way. Is there? Yes, there is an easier, cheaper way. We call it the new plan, and it is the leak detective. One, we're trained to detect water. How? We were trained by about 6 to 8 years of civil engineering training under licensed civil engineers. We're not licensed civil engineers, but we were trained in stormwater design. And then we also owned a civil engineering company, so we have a background in water design. And we also have a background in architecture, a master's in architecture, and have been doing architecture since 1991. Put those two together, and that gives you all the training you need to really understand and detect water in a house. And it doesn't matter if it's leaking during our inspection or not. And we don't care if there's multiple layers of damage or issues. We can find leaks no matter when they have occurred. Inspection and testing can take up to 3 hours or more. It's just important to understand we charge by the hour. Now most leaks are simple. They take about an hour and a half. and we mentioned this earlier, we can decipher multiple layers of evidence. Here's a good example: mold, cracking, settling, a whole lot of stuff going on in this corner. And actually, this house doesn't leak. It may have leaked at one time, but it ain't leaking, and it hasn't leaked for quite a few years. I know that I own this house. Anyway, so we test the entire system, and that's really the key. If you asked your auto mechanic to look at your car and tell you what was wrong with it, he'd laugh at you. And that's the same thing with a home inspector. They are giving you a visual inspection. They are not testing anything. They're not getting in the car and turning it on, basically. Excuse me. So that's important. And what are the results? Well, we are 95% cheaper, 100% better, and way more reliable. We save people a ton of money off of waterproofing. So this is one of the reasons that most people give for concealing, and they don't need to do that anymore. It is a much cheaper process. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, it's probably less than $100 per leak, and that's for material costs. That means you're going to be doing a little bit of labor. Yesterday, we had somebody that was digging a trench, putting in some gutter guards, but essentially they could get all their house. They had 5 leaks, 4 to 5 leaks. I think they had 4 leaks, and the material cost was probably about $75 per leak. And we're 100% better because we stopped the leak. That is so critical. Water can continue to damage a foundation or footing. Every other waterproofing company out there is going to put water at your footing, either inside or outside, and then try to drain it to a pit and pump it out. We don't do that. We've got other videos about the failure of other waterproofing companies and what really makes them. What's the downside of doing their expensive repairs? Once you really understand the consequences of what they're doing, you'd really want to shy away from them and only use it in a last case scenario. And we're extremely reliable. Basically, we hit the mark every time, and that's because of our testing. If we weren't testing, we would be about as reliable as any other contractor out there. But when you're testing, you are finding out things that are not obvious, and you are eliminating things that aren't true. So if you assume something is happening but it actually works, you find that out. So it's much better to test. I almost never avoid testing. I don't like doing visual inspections. I like to run some water just to make sure everything works, and that's the bottom line. So what is the best way to find a leak? Well, call the leak detective. And you can check out our information on our website, www.theleakdetective.net, or 402-309-3911. Thanks for watching this presentation. This is the old standard, the cause of most basement water leaks. We're not going to get into that, but you all know the routine. And here's the contact information. Thanks again for watching this video. Give it a like, 2 thumbs up, 3 thumbs up if you got 3. And refer us to your friends. We'd love that as well. In the meantime, have a good day.